Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Excellent. You guys ready to get rocking and just go around, take our time and go through it?
You got Tebow Samuel.
Yeah.
What do you think of the move, and what does he do for you guys?
Coaching against him, this is an explosive player. Not just the scheme, but after he gets the ball in his hand, sometimes you can tell the toughness of a player with and without the ball. And he has both of those, the explosive nature. So to add a player of his caliber into a tough and strong group, we're really pumped about it.
So, as a defensive guy, like to defend a guy like that, what were the challenges going against someone?
Alignments, one, where we could be in different locations and not just play in traditional spots. So sometimes when there's a unique player and you want to give special attention, but they're inside, outside, in the backfield, all the spots, and fortunately also Cliff's really equipped with that too, and how to be unique and feature players, into their best spot. So I'm really pumped to have him.
You made some changes on the D-line with John coming in,
Yep.
Wise coming in, John Allen leaving. What do you think of where that group stands? Do you expect more changes?
Yeah, at a couple of spots, I'm really excited about competition, and it really does, kind of foster like an environment where it's so competitive and you're pushing for it. The best teams, that I've been a part of had that, and at the line of scrimmage, that's so important of how we want to go and how we want to play. And so I love the guys that we've added. We certainly did a lot of research on who they were, not just as ball players, but as men and teammates. And so that was really important for us. How important our locker room and our attitude and who we are and what we want to be. That was really important part of it too, Nikki. So we're excited to add these guys to the crew, and I'm really excited. Just in a few weeks, we get to see everybody again, and the process of bringing new players and onboarding them with the current veterans. That's an important step, and there's two parts to it. One with the veterans who are new, and then the second lap will be with the rookies in May. And so both of those processes are important to onboard them as quickly as they can, understand our standards, the culture, how we want to do things. So we're pumped to have them.
You're on the coaching subcommittee. Are you able to share anything about what the general conversation has been like around the tush push and your own opinion on the proposed ban?
Yeah, I think I spend more of my time thinking of ways to stop it, and which is fun too. But as far as plays go, that's really what the competition committee is for, to look into things and say which is better. Do we change or leave things the same? And so it's for that. It's also for ideas like on kickoff. I'm really pumped that we decided as a league to put in kickoff. And I thought it gave our team a lot of energy, and I thought it was also good for the league. So I hope that trend really continues in a strong way. We've proven that we can do it safer, and that was a number one goal. And so the fact that was accomplished first, that made me happy.
Talking about the line of scrimmage, you also add Larry Tunsil. What does that do for the team, and what does that do for the rest of your line and Brandon Coleman?
Yeah, the addition of Laramie and playing out a tackle, he's had such experience and done it at a high level. And so when you can add somebody of that caliber, that's a big deal. And so adding him right now into our mix, we're really pumped to have him. We can't wait to get him here. It's going to be a fun group to coach. These are the guys we've added. Adam and his staff did an excellent job. We were very specific about the commanders and who we wanted to have as part of this, and so Laramie is an ideal fit for us.
And then Coleman, rookie season gave you a lot at that spot.
Yep.
Probably moving now.
Yes.
What's the plan there?
He'll go to the right side.
Tackles?
Yes.
Wiley kick in.
Yeah, you're getting way too far down the line. We got a lot of practice to go still. So, but yeah, he'll go on the right side. But as far as tackle or guard, we'll start at tackle. That's where he's got lots of experience at, and we'll go there first. So that's the plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You touched on this a little bit already, but last year with the culture, you guys obviously were able to come in at the ground floor and get it going. Now you're bringing just new people, regardless of who they are. Is this the real main test for what you built, so it's not just off 1 year vibes? It's now how do we sustain this with new people?
For sure, I don't know if I'd call it a test, but this is just how we'll move forward. And it's not something that you add on, a good culture or, at the end of a good season. It precedes that. And so it's important this year and next year and every year. And so that's part of what a locker room does, and helping them establish to one another, peer to peer, hey, this is what we do, this is where we go, this is how we do our meetings, this is where we do our workouts. Like just onboarding them to know these are the standards that we have. You'd find like most everybody really appreciates that. When you go to a new spot and people are looking out for you and saying this is how we do things, it goes a long way. Because whether it's through a trade or acquired through free agency, that first year you're trying to navigate it. If you can have people who are surrounding you help fast track that and be a part of that, that's a big deal. Especially the younger the player. Like when it turns into the rookie to go. If you had somebody looking out for you, but let me tell you, the veteran who wants somebody to help them too, like we all want that.
And with regards to the run defense, obviously it's something you guys really wanted to improve off of last year. We see some of the pieces come in, but how did you attack that problem when you were wanting to do? Obviously, what was the issue? What do we need to fix, and how did you go about that?
There's a lot of things that we want to get better at, and that's our expectation. So run defense was certainly part of that. I think you look at the full circle of it. Like what can we do better from a scheme standpoint? How do we position the players in the right spots to do that better? And so we just want to take a different lens and a different view at everything. And what did we do well? What do we need to work on? And so that's what a lot of the time in the offseason is spent on, whether it's run defense or a certain part of all three phases. And we work really hard at that. So that's still an ongoing process. Looking at other teams as well. Who did things well. Who didn't. So we really take a deep dive on the things that need our most attention.
What have you learned about Josh working with him over the last year?
I've learned that he's incredibly supportive, of the mission of what we want to do. It was easy to find out that he does what he says. He wants to create an environment for players that's second to none. Like there's no gap in what he says and what he does. And as a coach, man, you can really appreciate that because there's not going to be any moving around or posturing about it. Hey, this is how, we say we're going to do something, like this is what we do, and I really appreciate that.
At what point during the offseason do you kind of settle in on or maybe think about the messaging that you're going to have going into next season?
It probably takes the whole offseason because not every year is exactly the same. The good thing is that, as we're going into year two, there's a lot of things that we're still trying to grow and build on and get stronger at. But the vision of who we want to be, that's better than a year ago where we were trying to sell hope of what that is, but now we've actually seen examples of that and how we want to cover kicks as we were talking about earlier, or play style. So those are the things that I'll always keep right at the top. As far as the offseason goes, the skill work, this is the time that you have to get better at your skills, and so the offseason program is an important part of that, although it's not as much in the team setting of practice, but it is about your skills. And if all of us, myself included, can raise our level on the skill sets, that's a really big deal, and we call those work-ons. And so each player has their own set of work-ons, and coach as well, that they want to get better at, and that's now the time that we get to put it into place. So I'm really pumped to have the guys back here in a few weeks.
So, Coach, one of the kind of characteristics that I've noticed when you bring in vets as well as rookies is that they've been team captains before. So, kind of how important is that leadership characteristic coming in?
Yeah, I think that's probably a byproduct of looking for that, because it's not something that we put as a filter, but we do really value what leadership can be, and it's not all the same. And I don't think a person's born, as a leader. I think they're made, and so when you see it happening in college, okay, you can see that, happening on your team. When you see it on another club around the league, a lot of times that will transfer over. So it's an important piece, and the best of the best, can find where are their ways to lead. Not everybody's, out front and center and everything, but it is important to find their own space. And we've got a lot of leaders on our team, and not just leaders that are going to be at the Commanders, but in life after football. And so I really value that part of connecting with the guys. They're going to be leaders in their communities, their families, businesses, and things post-football. So I really dig into that top to card with them.
And bringing in Dietrich Wise and Jonathan Jones, what do you all see in them and what they've done in the league over the years? And you thought they would be good commanders, great commanders.
We do. And why don't we start with Jonathan first? So it's the speed and the tackling, that set them apart. He came into the league really the way that you like to see somebody really proving it on special teams and going for it. But the speed is something that, playing on the outside and playing in the slot, the ability to match up onto people, that's a big deal, and that's demonstrated. And then with Dietrich, I always just, even him coming out, he's got pass rush, he can play square in the run game, so he's a really versatile player. And sometimes you want some guys that can move into different locations, Candy, because now they can handle more than one job. And I think whether it's a safety that can play down in the box on third down, or a linebacker, or a linebacker like Frankie that can do a rush, or Dietrich who can play outside and inside, players that can do more than just one thing and add value that way, that's a big deal.
Hey, Coach, what do you think about the field in terms of Jaden's growth? I mean, obviously, he's got a good coach. I'm sure he plays. He's always got to get better.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot that all of us, we call them workouts. These are the things that we want to get better. So for him, some of the technique ones that, like a lot of quarterbacks, is footwork and body position of where to go, where to throw. We thought he made a lot of improvement, extending plays early on in the season. They were extending to run, and then now they got extending to throw the ball down the field. So having that balance of doing both of those, that's a big deal. But for him, the footwork side of things, that's one that I know he's going to be digging hard on this year. I think if you ask a lot of quarterbacks, that's where the power comes from, and that's where it's at. So, but that's one for sure that he's digging in on.
When you have a guy like this, you can build around him. Look at you're obviously going to raise you know you got this going forward. So you know that technology is right. So immediate now, okay, we're going to keep building,
Yeah, I'm pretty immediate all the time. So I just think of the uniqueness that he has, and how do we not just support him, but all the spots of our team. And that's one of the things that I thought Adam's done a remarkable job here. It's the strength. We're looking for depth and adding role players in certain spots that can do their thing at a really high level. And adding offensive linemen or receivers or pass rushers, whatever that looks like, that's a really big piece to putting a whole excellent team together. So think of it probably more in a big picture.
Building off that, as a defensive guy, how much do you get, from a schematic standpoint, how teams might try to take him away? How much do you scout like that, and then just batter out ideas to try and combat that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think he's established the throwing side. If he wasn't a dynamic runner, he'd still be an excellent quarterback. And so I think that's a really big deal. He adds the value of mobility and being outside the pocket and creating scrambles to run and on scrambles to pass. But if we had played him only as a pure pocket passer, he would still be excellent. So it does present challenges, John. It really does. Sometimes that's in the season. Also, teams want to try a certain unique thing, a spy or what have you, but we'll just continue to look at that, as we progress.
This is a far-range question, but like a few years we've talked about NFL players maybe playing in the Olympics and flag football. What would you think about that? And would that be something like? And I know this is way down the line.
Right.
All right. I didn't think so. I was asked to ask that.
Yes, I think that the addition and the popularity of flag, and I'm really pumped about it. I think it's awesome. I think it's growing the game, and I can remember driving with Stacy and going past a high school that there was a flag game going on. I mean, imagine if you had that in high school, I would have been all over it. So to me, to know how important, how much it's growing for boys and girls coming up, and I'm hoping that the college thing takes on that space for this as well. So I'm really pumped about it. I'll look forward to the Olympics are fun. They're always in training camp, so that's why I'm avoiding your question at all costs right now, John. But I do enjoy the Olympics, and being in camp is always a lot of fun. You watch this final or this thing or this end of the basketball game. There were a few meetings we had to delay this year thanks to USA Basketball and track and field. So, and I'm glad to do that to allow the guys and myself to watch those moments because they don't come around every year.
Thank you for indulging.
When you guys were resetting the culture with all the people that you brought in, how much were you factoring in the existing culture that you kind of inherited? And how did you get to know that, like before you were on the field or in the locker room?
I would say probably just the opposite. Coming there, I wanted fresh eyes on everything. And so I knew there were a lot of excellent players and people that were part of the organization. And if I had, went to look back to say, I don't care what that was, I was interested to know this is how we're going to do things from here on. And I thought that was an important piece if you're putting something together for the first time to make sure everybody's on the same page moving forward, whether you had been on the team before or you're on the team now. And so we wanted to make sure that everybody was going to be on the same footing and no bias about before or after or older or newer, just who was down for it. And that's really what we looked at.
As a defensive guy,
I'll come right back.
As a defensive guy over the years, what's it like having the game plan midweek for a dominant running back compared to a dominant passing attack? Especially with the way the game's played.
Sure. I think both are, it's kind of what makes like coaching in the NFL fun because it could be a dominant running attack, a dominant passing attack, a mobile quarterback, a certain receiver that can just ruin the game if you let it. And so it does force you to have like flexibility into a game plan and not just be so rigid like this is the only way we do things. So it is part of the fun. There's unique players that you face every week, but that's part of the fun of it and the challenge of it.
What's the hardest part about game planning for safety, especially with how well he's played?
I think you have to have a really good tackling plan because of the explosive runs when there's a gain of 4, a gain of 6, a gain of 7, a gain of 50. And so those are challenges against him or any guy who has the ability to make the big plays. It's the tackling.
Do you know yet?
Pete Carroll's rolling up his sleeves on his journey in Las Vegas. He talks a lot about team building and culture building. When you hear Pete Carroll talk about that, having worked with him, what jumps to your mind in terms of the core fundamentals of that?
Yeah, I think the last one you said is what's the fundamentals of that? He's exceptional at making the complex things simple. And I'm talking about like the fundamentals of at practice of doing things over and over and doing them correctly. They're going to throw great practices at the Raiders. That's been his history all the way through. So I learned a lot from Pete, but I would say it's going to be really clear about how things are going to run, and especially when you go to a practice area, you're going to see it all the way through, and that'll permeate from practice into meetings and other things. But the practice, I think, will be the thing that'll jump out to you and to the fans that watch their team.
Are you able to identify that in players that will respond favorably to that or want to be part of that?
Yes, it's important because it's a long season, and having that type of energy over and over to throw great practices is really important. He's starting with a new crew that'll be hungry to go do that, and so the ability to sustain that over and over, throughout the season, that's a big deal, and it takes some stamina to go do that again and again, and I'm certain they'll find the right people to do that.
Do you know yet how you want to use Jonathan inside or outside?
I have seen him at both, and so right today, I'd say we're probably a little more inside than out, but that's where I'm at today. But knowing that he has the flexibility, he and a couple of guys will probably play both spots, and it's just important to do that. Like, hey, this day we're going to play inside, the next day outside, and it just provides depth, Nicky, over and over. So Jonathan, probably all the way through camp, he and some others will do that. It just provides some insurance, when you can move guys around into different locations. So we'll do that with him too.
So with Mikey just going into the second year, is continuity in position important, or does he fall into that?
He falls into that bucket as well. I wouldn't ask him to do it if he wasn't capable of. So you're right. I don't know if continuity is the right word, but if I felt like skills or something would be diminished, then I would only leave him at one spot. But he's shown the ability to do that.
Is that sort of the new norm, or is that just finding guys who have the ability to play position?
I'd like to try to find more that can play more than one spot. It can usually settle down into one space, but I'd rather find out, okay, Nicky can do this and this. And then if I find out, okay, there's too much into the cup, then we can take a piece out. And so, but I'd rather start to find out is there other things that they can make them unique to do that, because it may not even be this season, but I want in the back of my head to know, you know what, I've seen it, I saw it in practice, so I may have not shared it externally, but I do want to find out what unique things guys can have. And then you may never lean back on it, but if you have to, I think it's important.
Coach, bringing Marcus Mariota back, how important was that to the overall locker room and for Jaden's continued growth and development?
Yeah, and he really played well.
Yes.
And I think that's an important piece to it, because I never wanted to see he or any of his teammates, that's always at the top of the pile. Past that, it was really important. The teammate that he is, the respect that he has amongst not just the offensive players, but the entire team. There were some times in practice, like he was absolutely throwing dimes, against the defense and made it as hard a look, as you could possibly imagine. That speaks to who the competitor is. But to have him back, one as a player, two as a teammate, it was really important, and we're really, really pumped. I felt like I've known Marcus, coaching against him for a while, but to actually coach him this year was all that I hoped it would be.
Coach, what kind of player are the Bills getting in Derek Forrest?
Defo is a really tough, strong safety, really committed, but I think his toughness, the physicality, that's what stands out to me.
Thank you.
Hey Dan, there was a sequence in your game against the Eagles in the NFC title game that may be contributing to sort of the momentum to ban the tush push. The 4 defensive penalties and that 6-play sequence. Can you take me inside of that sequence right there, and if you have heard anything about the impact that might be having on the Packers proposal that's going to be voted on tonight?
I haven't heard anything yet, but I spend more of my time thinking how to stop it, and so ways to, whether you're jumping over to try to grab the back of the quarterback to pull him down, or to go underneath, those are just ways and topics to go. As far as like penalties and awarding a touchdown, if that happens, like yes, I was aware that may happen. If there's a continued penalty over and over, I think that's what you're referring to.
Right.
So yeah, I was aware that could be, but our team. We're made of like really tough competitive guys. Like we're not going to concede anything. That's not how we get down. So if that meant like we're going to go fight for it to the last second of the last play of the last moment, like that's who we are.
And other than that warning from the referee in that moment, did you ever hear anything from the league office or anything afterwards about how that appeared or looked on TV?
No.
Okay.
A couple good T-shirts out of it. That's about it.
Are you guys talking with the Patriots about joint practice this summer?
Yeah, we talked to them and some other teams, and then as the schedule comes and we get closer to it, we'll see. But Mike and the guys and Elliot, those are one of the teams that we're visiting with.
Do you have a relationship with Mike? Like why
Yes.
the Patriots? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, just previous relationship with Mike, and we'd like to do it locally, homes in a way, and where it all fits in. But I know as a head coach, you want to work with somebody who knows going to do it right, have good sessions, and so Mike was somebody I clearly felt that way about.
You like the idea of seeing Jaden Daniels and Drake May going at it for a few days?
I didn't think about it in that space, but I did get to know Drake through the process, and he's going to be excellent there too.
What did you think last year when you had 2 camp practices and then longer stretches on the road? Do you feel like that benefited you guys?
I did. I think there was like 3 of them that I liked: the Jets one, the Miami one, and then the Arizona trip. And it's different, and how many of you guys covered training camp being away and doing things where you don't have it in that same way, where there was some just natural flow of guys spending all that time together. And so I liked it, and we'll do that again this year, hopefully, to have whether we go out for 2 spots or have one at our spot and go away to one, but we anticipate doing that at least 2 times again this year.
Dan, when you look at
Going away?
No update.
Camp will be in Ashburn.
Yep.
Dan, when you look at back at the run game last year, specifically with the running back room, you guys have basically brought back the same group. What did you kind of think of that room, and then why, as for now, you decided to bring the same group back?
Yeah, I thought there was some real impact that was made, and so for us, J-Mac also had a big role on special teams that had a big factor as well. Like most things, there was a lot that we want to dig in on. What were the schemes that were successful? Why were they? Even a step deeper, with certain schemes who needs to be in to best execute that specific scheme. And so that's something I learned years ago during my first time in the NFL, kind of coming up through San Francisco and hearing, Coach Mariucci talk about that, of not just the play, but who's needed specifically for that play. Not every player at every spot is the same. What tight end would you like to run this type of scene? And so looking at all of those things, but I love the versatility of the group, both in the running game and the passing game. That's a big piece for us of the running backs catching the ball out of the backfield just to attack the field horizontally and vertically. And if we can do that over and over through the run game, the screen game, motioning out to empty, bringing guys back in, that's a big piece.
If you're Jaden ahead, obviously teams are going to try to throw different things at him. How can you help you to kind of get ahead of whatever the tendencies they saw?
It's a great question, and you want to go back through and look at these 20 games and say what were looks that came up, what were things to go, and so he digs a lot in each week. What are the team doing? What are the looks? And then by also us playing a lot of no huddle, you get some looks that you can see quickly. And so we played a few hundred more no huddle snaps than the rest of the league, and I like that we had uniqueness doing that. But you're definitely on the right track to find out if the team tries a certain scheme or things to go. But there was a lot thrown at him in his first 20 or so games, and so to go through that again and to dig in deeper, that's a big piece of it.
What do those sessions look like between you and talking?
Yeah, that's usually when I connect on with him about a certain scheme or what a team is trying to do, and that's what the defensive coaches, what are some new trends that we think could be coming up this year. Whether it's different type of pressure or a different way to utilize coverage. Those are the things that if I can help he and Cliff and the offensive guys stay ahead of that, that's the best way that I can help support them.
To that point, you've been on the job for 14 months. Do you allow how much progress and growth you guys have made as an organization in that time?
I think we probably do it in smaller chunks. What we like about training camp, so we can try to find an edge to do it. What we like about things. One of the things that I did look back to see of the amount of players that wanted to re-sign, I think it clearly demonstrated how much they love to play football together. And so that made me happy to know that so many players wanted to be Commanders again who are free agents because of the teammates that they have in the locker room and the brotherhood they created together. And so that made me happy. I knew we were hitting in the right spot, that people wanted very, very badly to be back and part of it. They sensed what it can be here, but that only comes from them doing it together. It's not me talking about it or saying it on words on the wall. If they're not living it, then you don't have a culture or a standard. And the fact that they live it together, that's a big piece. And I think there's a lot of players, we talk a lot of, what we would call quote unquote the stars, but the team, and that's made up of your core group that's day in, day out, digging in and grinding. And so to see that many players want to be back, that's a big deal. That's probably a better one for Adam onto that one in terms of trade stuff, because a lot of that goes on throughout the year, between GMs, whether it's in season or off season. So he'd be a better one to hit up on that.
What are you saying? Where you're getting it?
Yeah, that I can tell you. So coaching against Laramie through the years, he's a tough matchup for any pass rusher. It's the length, and I would say he has this unique ability to have patience, which is a difficult thing to do as offensive tackle because of his athletic ability. A guy may head fake in, and you may see another tackle bite on it, and he gets beat. Man, he can just wait it out and stay due to his length and his strength. So we're really pumped to have him too.
Dan, Bobby Wagner, obviously there's a lot of reasons to want to bring him back.
Hundreds, yeah.
Ultimately for you, I mean, what was the sort of the main drive, and how much is his relationship with Jaden in the world of helping Jaden wherever he can, how much did that factor into anything?
Yeah, I think I kind of addressed it with Candy earlier with Marcus. You want to re-sign great teammates, but you also want to re-sign great players. And when those two things are in sync, man, that's a no-brainer. And so the impact that Bobby made on and off the field was excellent. I can still be the one that stood up in front of the team, and I think that was something, Ben, that showed the leader that he is, because he is soft-spoken. He's got really high standards. He's the first one, just about he and Jaden, to the building every morning. But I think that shows over and over again, like, how committed he is, and other people see that. So it was both, but it was the ball player first. But when you can add the ball player and the teammate, man, that's an easy one to do, and that was really important for us. So I know for Adam and Bobby to get that done together, like, that's also some uniqueness there as well. And like, I just think that's one of the coolest things.
You also obviously had some guys who had to move on, including guys you've had for a while, Dante and Lucy. More of those conversations, like for you, like, sort of what was the line for those guys for a while so we could get them out back?
Yeah, I think sometimes the football and the business, they intersect. But those two, and specifically, I love them, and way past football, and that's for life. So both of them made a huge impact on my life, and like, we'll always be supporting them. But that is part of it, and you hear it's a business, and that is true. And there's certain times a year where those things, intersect, and that's part of it. And we all recognize that together. You wish everybody, could be back all the time, but that's not how it goes.
Dan, with the D-line that you guys signed, how does that increase what you feel like you can do up front and just with this different looks, etc.?
Yeah, it's a big deal, John, and the reason why, if you guys can play in different spots, and I was referring to this earlier, if you can try a player and make them unique, and they play over a tackle, and they play over a center, and they really get upfield and rush. So if we can manage to find the spaces to put the guys in the best spots, that's when we'll be at our best. And that's a good challenge for us to have. But through the off season, what does second down and 8 look like? And you play that like a third down. What is the first down? How do you play on a short yardage space? So having the big crew, a lot of competition at that spot and some others, it's exactly what we want. Like, it's the competition is the central theme of our program. We did it last year at quarterback. Like, I think everybody knows, like, that's how we get down. Like, we compete, and it's not contentious. It's not adversary in the locker room. It's just what we do all the time, and it's not. At first, it can feel a little awkward to somebody. Like, yeah, you're going head to head all the time, and then the more that we do it, it's just there was a winner and loser on that rep, and we go to the next one. We go offense versus defense every single day. We do situations every day. So at first, it can feel a little against one another, but I would never want a team that had an offense go against a defense. They didn't care for one another. Like, that's too important. So just the competition part of it alone, man, that's a really big deal.
What do you guys get last one?
I didn't hear what you said.
Do you have something? Yeah. What do you guys get?
I think one, a player that's really connected and motivated to make an impact. The strength, the length, the disruption, that's a big deal.
I know you've addressed it. Sirianni said he's talked to 3 coaches. Raheem said I'm a hard no. Sean said a hard no. Temple said I'm a hard yes. Where do you fall on the tush push?
I fall on stopping first. And once we get into that space and we get into the meeting, we'll see. But as we go forward, I love being part of these things, man. It's a cool thing to know that rules get adjusted and changed to go. So my main concern, obviously, is finding ways to stop it. And if it leaves, then we'll put our attention somewhere else.
All right, thanks, Coach. What do you think of the Lions trying to reseed the playoffs?
I think I was part of Beastquake at 7 and 9, and so I would be really bummed if I wasn't a part of Beastquake.
Thanks, everybody.